Hi, everyone. Once again, I am Gail Boone, and I am so grateful to Bridges for allowing me to have these moments with you about mindfulness and meditation. Today, I want to talk about something as part of almost a two-part session. This time, I'm going to be talking about resilience as how it relates to us as individuals and how resilience is made within us. And the next session, I'm going to talk more about resilience and how it relates to things outside of ourselves, which of course also includes us, but our culture and the resilience of us as people in general. So today I wanted to start with talking about resilience in a definition. Resilience is almost like a buzzword now that keeps coming up over and over and over again because of the mindfulness mindset, and it is part and parcel with it. Resilience is being thought of as, that ability to bounce back, to get up every morning with renewed energy and vigor for the day, to be able to say, oh, today's a new day and I'm ready to go and take on the world. And that definition of resilience is certainly a good one, albeit a little bit superficial. Let me explain that a little bit more. So if we are in a situation where we have just a small thing happen to us in our day, and we get set behind in our goals or our ability to be our most positive self, or think in a good mindset. We might look towards our resilience as a way to be aware of our situation and say, okay, well, what's done is done, and I need to not let it bring me down. And so tomorrow's a new day, it's a new start. So it's certainly worthwhile. But let's also look at when we talk about something where there's a larger loss or a greater difficulty, something where it's going to require qualitative change in who we are to be resilient, something that just knocks us down as an individual. So when something like this happens, where there's an overwhelming loss or a difficulty or something that's such a huge part of our lives that comes to an end, or whatever it might be, and we need to take into consideration at that moment the three pillars of mindfulness, as we've discussed before, the ability to be aware of it, to be aware of what's going on, and being aware of our feelings and where we are in the present at that moment. And then what we are going to pay attention to, do I have this feeling of loss? Do I feel like I can't go on? Do I have this feeling of frustration or resentment, or whatever it might be, to be really paying attention to that. And then the third aspect, to look at ourselves in the situation with compassion and kindness and understanding for what we're going to, and be able to, face it forward instead of putting it on a box and throwing it on the shelf. So whatever has caused us this grief, we need to develop that authentic resilience, almost like that deeper resilience, going a little bit greater down into the depths of ourselves, instead of that more superficial, tomorrow's another day type of thought process. So when it happens that we are finding and facing something, a new challenge, something that we have never felt before, something that we have never gone through before, the suffering for us comes in the not knowing. It comes for us in the situation where we have never had to face this before. What comes to my mind is maybe like the death of a parent, where you've heard about it, you've read it, you've seen it on TV, your friends it's happened to them, but when it becomes something that happens in your life, it's a completely new situation, and you understand it and you realize it in an intimate way that you never did before. So our brains, our bodies, our hearts, we do not like the unknown. We do not like that uncertainty in our lives. There's no Rolodex for us to go through and look to see, ooh, what have I dealt with before in my life that can help me get through this. There's no intuition for us to go to as any indication in our lives of something that we can resort back to as a place, a frame of reference. So naturally and organically, not inorganically, and organically, there's going to be anxiety and suffering. And that's just part of life. Whatever it is that we're facing, that will give way to a no understanding starts first with the suffering. And so with this is our inability to grasp what has happened. And that's where the pain comes from. We almost can't believe that this has happened. There's a difficulty in it that we almost can't reconcile at first. So what do we do? How do we process that sort of loss or difficulty? How do we cope? Well, we change and we grow. It's something that has happened for almost everyone, especially recognizing that it's happening at that time is going to give us the greatest advantage. It will put us in a place where we can experience what they call post-traumatic growth, which is when your personality or your being, the innermost parts of who you are, results in a quantitative change in our personality, so that we can, because we are witnessing and having something happen to us that we've never had before, it actually changes who we are. We see things in a completely different way. We experience things on a different level. So let's look at, with resilience, not necessarily what it is, but let's take just a second and look at what it isn't, or define what the opposite of resilience is. And I would state that the opposite of resilience is the state of fragility. So when you are in a situation where you cannot have that resilience, where the strength and the growth and the adaptation is not presenting itself to you, you might be in a state of fragility, where just the inner sense of who you are cannot be held because it is so fragile and so ready for the disruption of your life, ready to cause the disruption in your life, because you are not in a place where you can adapt and grow and change and become more resilient. And so that is something that we do not want to have in our lives, is that sense of, I can break at any moment. My life and my thought process is so fragile that I'm afraid that everything's just going to fall apart from here. And if you sit in that fragility as your response to the adversity that happens in your life, your ability to adapt and to grow and to change is going to be completely disrupted by that inability to formulate a new mindset, a new change in thought patterns, to be able to face that suffering and be in a state of awareness of what's going on, and a state of paying attention, and a state of self-comforting and compassion for yourself. So it is important for us as human beings to be able to grow that resilience. This type of deep-seated and authentic resilience may not be a trait that we are born with. And it might be something that we have to develop over time and gain more and more self-awareness of picking ourselves up and changing the way that we look at things and process things to make us stronger human beings. So we have to face instead our response to adversity, knowing this is not, the situation that we're in now is not like a winning situation. It's not everything's wonderful. We have to actually face that and say, this kind of stinks right now. I'm not in a good place. I understand that, but I'm going to figure out how to get through this. And the way we get through that is that we know something. And this is a knowledge we do have. We may not have the knowledge about the specific thing that we're going through, but we do have the knowledge that even with uncertainty, we know that there is hope. And we know that there is strength and adapting to our situation, to uncovering that hope and sitting within that hope and learning and growing from within the situation that we are in. Um, so, with mindfulness and the reflection and acknowledgement of our feelings and the processing of the events and the evidence shows us that resilience is what happens when we develop a restructured frame of reference, when we are able to change our mind and look at things in a different way, be able to um, be aware of where we are and being able to say, yeah, this is what it is. You know, it's not an acceptance of the situation in that we are, you know, okay with it. It's an acceptance in the situation that this is where we are right now and where are we going to go from here. So that restructuring the mindset is what gives us new understanding when we have faced difficulty. And because of it, we have gained the renewed ability to be ourselves and be self-critical. At that time, to be able to say, you know, in a compassionate way, you know, oh, yes, okay, fine. You know, I've sat on the couch for 3 days now and I'm not been able to move. That's okay. Maybe that's what I need. What should I do? What kind of goals should I set to get myself past sort of my limited ability to access my life right now so that I can move forward and grow the resilience that I need to be able to, you know, come out of this a stronger person. So what an important thing is to do is we need to change the nature of the conversation that we are having with ourselves. And what that means really is looking at where we are, and instead of thinking, I can't, you know, this is, you know, this is going to drag me down, to be able to change the whole nature of our conversation about who we are now that this loss or this difficulty has occurred and where we can go from here. So an important thought about this that I want to talk about next time, I'll just give you a little teaser, is talking about how mindfulness itself has changed the nature of the conversation with our culture about this mindset. You know, mindfulness and meditation is certainly not a new thing in a global wisdom belief for centuries and centuries. But for the culture that we live in, mindfulness has been almost a new wave of a thought pattern that has been emerging little by little, and now it's something that is a common household term, something that people are aware of. And how does that happen? You know, how does the nature of our conversations about our ability to be self-aware, our ability to be present in our life, and our ability to think about ourselves in the context of who we are and what we're doing and how we're thinking and how we're processing our lives, how does that happen, and what does that do on a greater level? What it does is it changes who we are as a people. And so just a little teaser there, I'm going to talk about, that's what I'm going to talk about next time. But right now I want to do a meditation that is resilience based. And because resilience, the opposite of that fragility is that strength and that adaptation and that groundedness to, you know, our ability to overcome. You might want to do something when you're doing sort of a resilience meditation to hold, you know, something like a crystal or a stone or a pillow or whatever makes you feel sort of grounded and sitting in that ability to gain that resilience. So you could do that. So come to a comfortable seating position and relax your shoulders. You can notice any places in your back or your shoulders, your arms, your chest, maybe your face, your cheeks, your neck that feel like it's holding some sort of resistance. Soften them for a second, letting go. Close your eyes at any time where it feels comfortable. Lengthen your spine to a position that you can hold comfortably for the next 10 minutes or so. At this time, if you don't have something to hold that grounds you, you can put your hand on your chest or on your stomach to just sort of bring that loop back around to yourself. Knowing that meditation trains you to be resilient. The more you learn to stay with all the highs and lows of your thoughts and emotions and physical sensations, the more strength you will bring to each moment and experience in your lives. So with that, imagine something difficult that you are going through or you have gone through. It doesn't have to be the most difficult situation that you've ever encountered, but certainly something that was of moderate difficulty that it springs to mind. We're going to practice our meditation with that moderation before we face the most difficult and overwhelming of times. So through mindfulness, we will be better prepared for when that actually does occur, before the sadness gets a chance to overtake us. Tune into that memory or that loss or difficulty. It could be anything. What physical sensation do you notice when you think about it? Do you have a tightness in your chest or in your stomach, in your throat? Is there a heaviness in your shoulders or your stomach? Where are you feeling that difficulty, that pain, that suffering in your body? Recognize for yourself your desire to push it away, to reach towards something else that would be far more soothing in that difficult moment. Would you distract yourself with technology or food or something else that works for you? Would you deny that that's actually happening? Imagine now that you turn towards it to face that difficulty or loss, and do so with compassionate curiosity, asking the questions, what is this? How is it affecting me? What does it mean for the rest of my life? What does it mean for me now? What should I do with myself because of this? Name those feelings that you're feeling. Name them. Acknowledge them. Take notice of them. Notice your breath as a stabilizer. And bring yourself back to your breath. Breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth a couple times while you're still feeling and noticing those difficult emotions. Now introduce yourself and invite into your awareness some sort of large figure of compassion and strength who's able to envelop you in a blanket of strength, wisdom, love, acceptance, security. It can be a big cloud of compassion. It could be a wonderful grandmotherly type person. It can be yourself. It could be yourself wrapping yourself in that love and compassion and sitting in that kindness for you. Allow that figure to take the situation that is so overwhelming for you and give you the time and the space to be able to face that difficulty, knowing that they are there to support you. So turn fully towards that difficulty, knowing that you are safe. Face it head on. There's no need to feel scared, to feel fear. Feel that wise being speaking kindly to you. It'll be okay. You are okay. You are lovable. You are enough. You are not alone, and we will get through this together. Let yourself offer and receive that loving, kind statement as many times as you need it, and as many times as it can soothe you. Each time you notice yourself reaching for old, familiar ways of turning away from discomfort, denying the thoughts, setting it aside, gently try to turn yourself towards it once again. The more you train your mind to acknowledge and name the difficulties that you have, will make it not so challenging, and you will be able to overcome it. So after a few more breaths, feel your feet grounded on the floor. Notice your feet, where they are sitting, where they are touching the earth. Notice the solid seat that you sit upon, how it holds you and supports you. Know that for yourself as you reflect on these thoughts. I am here. I am now. All I need is within me. All I need will come to me. So know that you are centered and strong and resilient, and you are ready to meet the challenges of the day and of your life. Thank you again, my friends, for being with me today, and I will see you again next week.